Well. Who could have seen this coming, besides everyone who isn't a compulsively lying virtue signaler? A 21-year-old named Abdul Ballout? Is that his actual name? Whatever, doesn't matter. He drove a van through this week's 1 billionth Pride celebration in the heart of Germany, injuring 29 and killing a 65-year-old woman. He then fled on foot and was shot dead when they tried to arrest him. But that's not a story, really, is it? That's just day-to-day life here in the West. It's not even worth talking about. What's more interesting is what led up to it and what happened after the terroristic attack. This guy was known to the government. That's the fun part. He was part of the Islamic scene there in Germany, from what I understand, and he even went to Lebanon to join ISIS, I hear. He had a high volume of criminal offenses, and they knew that he was becoming radicalized to the more overt beliefs that they all silently share. And their answer was nothing, because he was under 21 and apparently makes him a juvenile, so even though he was assaulting high schoolers and stealing from people, he was getting suspended sentences and such. But it wasn't until this whole ISIS debacle that he was convicted and, again, had a suspended sentence. Great job, guys. Keep it up. Well, a couple weeks later, he's undergoing a de-radicalization program, which even the staff allegedly knew he was lying about, but the modern left's hands-off approach to solving problems thought it best to just mental health him back to being a functional aspect of society. It didn't work. Surprise, surprise. The cult telling people that they get to do whatever they want and have whatever they want won out over the cult telling people that they must worship and obey the commandments of the rainbow. And this is the predictable result. But then the cult of the rainbow does something entirely unexpected. Well, not that unexpected. They blame the West. A post from Kate Osborne, a member of parliament in UK, blamed homophobic rhetoric from various sources like Reform UK and GB News, and also every other white male, I'm assuming, seemingly claiming that it was the air of white supremacist patriarchy that inspired Muslim radicals to think that it was okay to murder people. Right. She then encouraged people to continue to be vocal and stand up for the sake of minorities. Does this remind anyone of anything? Like Governor Walz telling Minnesotans to go out and start good trouble, only to have 2 people die in the process of defying the federal government? If these people could just be normal, none of this would have happened. And when I say normal, I don't mean heterosexual. I mean, they don't need to go into the middle of the street, dressed up looking more offensive than a South Park character, letting everyone know that they are deranged. You can do that in your own house. That's normal. It's normal to be deranged in your own house. It's not normal to do it in the middle of the street.
The real pattern is clear enough. Imported men from the Middle East and Southeast Asia who hate the West, hate Christianity, hate our way of life, radicalized by extreme Islam, are committing mass acts of terrorism. This didn't happen 30 years ago, did it? So why do you think it's happening now? So to all of the leftists, let me ask you again, who is the problem?
Indeed, it's very obvious who's to blame, but they always come back to the safe option. The option that they can berate and insult and censure as much as they want because they'll never get banned for it, they'll never get censored for it, they'll never be canceled for it, they'll never be fired for it. White men. They can always say whatever they want about white men, and so they take that opportunity to do just that, to demonize white men. Very peculiar, isn't it, that despite there being a total lack of evidence that white men are the problem, these womenfolk instantly insist white men are always the problem. Perhaps the problem could be solved by bolting a GoPro onto one of their heads, airdropping them into Afghanistan, and streaming the whole thing live for the world to see. In a first world country, people would see a parachute, they'd get worried, they'd call the police, who would inform a politician, the politician would then give this person a free visa and a hotel room until they could get them back safely to their own country, but what would happen to her if she was airdropped into Somalia?
So the suspect is an Islamic extremist. That's their suspect right now. That's what I read, okay? I'm not going to say anything about the rest of the Muslim population because of actions of this one person. But what I can say is the people who were celebrating about this were all white men, young white men, with crosses in their profiles. Because we've all seen it. We've all seen how you guys react towards gay people and how you wish harm on them constantly. I get a constant hate on my videos, especially about trans people. You're not going to hide behind another scapegoat group and pretend that they're actually the violent ones when it's you. You hold the same exact beliefs that this man who did this attack did. And you're trying to distance yourself from it. And you know why you're trying to do that? It's because you're ashamed. And you should be.
God, what a wretched woman. A tragedy happens, and the first thing she does is run to the internet to blame white men for Islamic-induced terrorism against women and gays. Instead of facing reality, the reality that she is an evil traitor to her country, to her species if you'd like, destroying the world for the sake of people who would happily lop her head off, she instead tries to psychoanalyze men, despite her being yet another stereotypical character whose entire personality and identity you can perceive from just a glance. Why are white men happy? She's confused by this. Well, it's not specifically white men, but granted, it's us more than anyone else. And the reason is as obvious. The sign says everything you need to know about Democrats. Their banner that they proudly hold, it reads, "Spread your wings and rise up against sexism, racism, and homo/transphobia," written in rainbow as proof that LGBTQ is now intrinsically intertwined with Democratic political goals even beyond homosexuality, which is proof of how dangerous things like these ideologies are. But that's not what it actually says, is it? It says to rise up and stop the patriarchy. But Western men aren't oppressing anyone. If they were, then you wouldn't be walking around nearly naked. You wouldn't be manipulating men constantly with either guilt or sex. Hell, if they were, then you wouldn't be speaking to begin with. It says to rise up and stop white supremacy. But if we're so racist, then why is it that our countries are flooded with and drowning in immigrants? Why is it that their countries are not full of white people, barely any in there to begin with? It says to rise up and stop homo/transphobia. But if homosexuality is oppressed, then why are they allowed to be trans? Why are they allowed to be gay? Why are they allowed to get married and live happy lives in nearly all progressive countries? Why is that? These are not ancient unknown texts or alien runes. No, they are written in plain English, and all can see, clear as day. This sign says to rise up and be sexist towards men. It says to rise up and be racist towards white people. It says to rise up and stomp out heterosexuality and therefore birth rates. It's a call to arms for the feminists, the soylescent children trained by activist teachers, and the boomers who no longer remember what having testosterone feels like. This sign of happy inclusivity, fun times, positive vibes, etc., it's meant to brainwash children into advocating for the destruction of males, white people, and procreation. This sign is a complete farce, just as everything these feminist zealots do. They demand change, but they are powerless to change it, so they instead accuse men of being misogynists, patriarchs, sexists, Nazis, fascists, racists, bigots, homophobes, and transphobes, anything, hoping to guilt-trip a man into changing the world for them, because women don't want to physically help these starving children in Africa, they just want credit for having done it, so they represent themselves as some morally superior being and force men to do it, thereby making the men less moral in comparison. Well, this is the result of their so-called morality. The most hilarious aspect of it is, of course, the phobia nonsense, as it's not even real to begin with. There's even strong arguments that sexism and racism are imaginary concepts as well, and that it's all down to the particular culture that any person has which causes them to think, talk, or act in antisocial ways, and that the responding hatred for those ways is not a form of wrong think, but actually right think, as it's identifying and condemning antisocial behavior. But the reality is that homophobia is a word coined by a moron who is mislabeling a religious practice, and transphobia spawned from the word homophobia, so both of them are just made up. The reality is that it's a perfect representation of the left's ideology, always guilt-tripping people, even with totally made-up accusations about totally made-up phobias. Meanwhile, they're the party of mental health, and are happy to accuse you of having a phobia as if it's a death sentence. Phobias, of course, being an uncontrollable aspect of the mind you. So, why are men, especially white men, happy to see this? Because it proves us right, and it proves liberals wrong, which, by the way, has always been the case and will always be the case, because liberalism is greed, fueled by excess luxury, whereas practicality is what created strong countries and laws and orders that allowed such luxury to be created in the first place. Liberalism will inevitably fail and will be crushed under heel, but in the meanwhile, women and liberals chip away at morality like a harsh wind winnowing a mountainside. They tear at legislation like crashing waves shearing off a cliff's face. It may not be exclusively to women, but they are the primary powerhouse of the Democrats, having been bribed by the biased belief that abortion is actually a great thing and that women are great for doing it. So, of course, I have to put most of the blame on women, but there are plenty of other people going in on this. Men, aside from liberal men, are happy because it proves, again, that these people who want to bring in infinite immigrants and blame white men for everything are the ones who are, in fact, wrong. We feel as if we've been dragged through a legal dispute every day of our lives, every moment of it a constant Me Too scandal, constantly accused and always found guilty until proven innocent. So now you got what you wanted. You got your just desserts, and yes, that makes us happy. Instead of dealing with an evil white man, you got to deal with a white van as it plowed you down like an XXL-sized bowling pin. You got to see what's in store for all of you, what white men have been warning you about all this time. There's an expression of cattle to the slaughter, but in this case, liberals are more like pigs dialing up the butcher and asking him to make a house call. Chickens for KFC and all of that. You not only welcome them, but you beg them to enter your country. You open the portcullis and allow them inside the castle. You call us misogynistic patriarchal oppressors, and the people you fight for are proving that they want to chop you into pieces with a machete. And if not that, then they'll put you in a burqa and keep you as their 5th wife, with your 10-year-old daughter as their 4th wife. Yes, we're happy to see that you're finally tasting the fruit of your labor. It's not because we want harm to come to anybody. Well, not anybody on our side anyway. It's because it proves us right. You accused us, and you have been found guilty, and it's an electric feeling. But let's not get overexcited, because as soon as these women face lethal reality, they immediately double down and blame white men again, as we see here. We need to temper our excitement, because this is our lethal reality. Not Muslims. They thrive only in tribalistic third world countries. The threat is liberals, especially women, and even more especially the privileged white women. They are a plague, a disease, a blight, a scourge, a cancer upon society. They will destroy the country, and I say that with no exaggeration. Liberals will destroy the country not with nukes, but with their poisonous beliefs, which is exactly how women tend to murder. The words of these activists are venom, and it is assuredly killing us slowly without even the grace to numb us as we wither away. Not just inviting infinite immigrants, but giving a need for them due to their refusing to get married and have children, calling it slavery and oppression. They just want to stay young, party forever, and virtue signal, but their flashlight was always dim, and for most women, the batteries ran out before they even turned 18. It's time to start taking their weaponized empathy seriously, because as you can see, their infection spreads and contaminates even across oceans, and it will not stop until the foreign men take power, and then they will force these liberals to be silent in a very different way, one that does not require legal procedure, nor will it require being punished by a court of law. And so the men of the West must rise up, because these liberal activists are sexists against us, racist against us, and heterophobic against us. I mean, we may as well make up our own fake word, our own fake phobia, right? If they're going to do it, we may as well. They're trying to destroy us. And I believe their success at brainwashing at least one generation of children is proof that this is no longer a question of free speech, but rather treason. Just as you are not free to tell people nuclear launch codes, you should not be free to poison the drinking fountains of schools. Soon enough, jihad jeeps will be driven by white Muslims, and it will be too late for liberals to repent, and too late for the rest of us to shut the gate. And so we must rise up now, rather than later, where there may not be an opportunity to. Anyway, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed, please do the YouTube things.